All right, what's going on? All right, I like it. What's going on, Digital Wildcatters? Welcome to another week of the Oil and Gas Startups podcast. Man, I've been sitting here talking to my guests for like 30 minutes before we started recording, and I was like, shit, we should just start recording the podcast. So we got Vasili from Cool Edge Bits on the show today.
Hit that play button.
Hit that play button, man. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Man, interesting background. We're here to talk about drill bits. But we're just talking about you're a professional tennis player and you're from Russia.
Long time ago.
You got me on my rant where I'm talking about grappling with bears. And so we kind of had like a Joe Rogan-esque podcast going on here. But dude, one, you're telling me about this bit. I want to talk about this bit here in a minute. Why don't you like just real quick before we get into life story and everything, just give me the high level of why this bit is special and why we're here talking about it. And then we'll dive into everything else.
Right. So my father is a world famous rocket scientist, and, his whole life and career he has spent on, taking some of the hottest surfaces and spaces on the planet Earth, as hot as the sun, and cooling them down. He's got many, many patents in rocket engine design. And he never really was an oil and gas guy or anything, but some of his buddies were business owners, and they kind of would just, bug him a little bit, and because they knew this guy has the perfect brain and life experiences and works and inventions to design the perfect bit or the hydraulics and fluid dynamics behind the bit. And he's like, "Oh, I don't care. But so they just start, they start bringing over.
That's where the Russian came at.
Yes, I can do a little accent. But so they just like bringing over used bits, back maybe 10 years back, it was like, Smith and Altera or NOV or Baker, and they just throw him in his garage, and he kind of was like, he still wasn't even looking at it. Finally, one night, he just started looking at it closely. He's like, "Oh, this is all wrong." They did this all wrong. And specifically looking at kind of how the nozzles are shaped and designed, and then kind of some of his background from how he designed, different and invented different rocket engine design products. He said, okay, so he started looking at it, doing some experiments, some drawings, some experiments, and then some designs, and then, got a patent together and basically invented more of like a spray flow kind of option, to where, like a conventional bit, you'll kind of have those big nozzles pointing straight down, right, to go down to the cutting floor and then back up to clean, mainly to cool some. But he kind of realized that, like, hey, really any instrument where there's friction, whether it's drilling or cutting or anything, the improvement has been made in the last 15, 20 years to PDC bits on the outside, making the cutters better, increasing the height of the gauge, or, outside stuff. But nothing has really gone into the engine, right, of the design. So that's what he did. And he said, we're not going to have big old nozzles that point down. We need to, what's stopping? What is the wear and tear? Why is the wear and tear happening here on these bits, right? What is stopping the bits from performing better? Well, it's the heat, right? The heat, right? So what do we need to do? We need to reject the heat, right? So basically he invented this type of design where, we have strategically placed and angled ports. We call them ports instead of nozzles, that point right to the cutting edge, right, to the most stressed cutters there. And so what we've done is we've brought the temperature down from 1200 degrees to 700, right, down by about 33 or so percent. So, you can probably fill in the blanks as to what that does, right? More bit runs, better, faster, doubling ROP in some cases from some of the market leaders. Less days on 8 days in the rigs we're saving, basically, any box that you want to check, whether it's performance, wear and tear, saving money, costs, less man hours, less labor, right? Environmentally more responsible. That's kind of how we hooked up with Jason, right? And those guys, because, you're not using as many big giant diesel engines out there to run those bits, right? Less CO2 emissions, and really any box you want to check, we feel we can check it just a bit better than our competitors. So that's kind of what he wanted.
Super interesting stuff. It's actually funny. I used to work for this company in Venture Global Technology and had expandable casing, and the guy, the scientist that created that tool, had a similar story to your dad, Russian scientists, and, somehow figured out how to manipulate the molecular structure of steel pipe to where it could be expanded. And so
wow.
it's cool when you see like outside scientists come from the outside and figure out how to apply their knowledge to this technology. And so anyways, you were born in Russia.
Yes, I was born in Moscow, but we lived in Siberia. So the reason it was my dad was away on a project. So my mom's family is from Moscow. So that's where I was born. But I grew up in Novosibirsk, which is the third largest city in Russia, largest in Siberia. And so very cold, communist Soviet Union, and then my dad kind of won a Fulbright grant, which is a grant developed by a professor basically for foreign research scientists to come here to the U.S. do research, study development at the University of Maryland. Initially, we moved to Rockville, Maryland.
Okay.
And then he was transferred to U of H, and it was. My parents tell me to this day that the options were Michigan State or U of H, and they picked Houston because of my tennis. And so we came to Houston, but my dad kind of quickly saw that sadly in this country, you can't raise a proper family on a teacher's salary. So, he started thinking outside the box, started his own business called GV, General Vortex Energy, and started to get a lot of traction, right, with different investors and companies, and started to work with the U.S. Navy in designing combustion engines, injectors, and just basically making engines more fuel efficient for use on any type of machinery, from submarines to just machinery that Navy uses. And so he had a lot of work there. And then he really fell into his love and passion, which is rocket engine design, working with some of the top companies on the planet. I don't want to name all of them, but some government, some, billionaire started guys. And so that was kind of his passion. And meantime, while this is happening, while he's doing this, I'm tennising around the world, right? Yeah. So I was highly ranked junior, first, second in Texas, most of my junior career. Top.
When let me rewind real quick. Is your dad still around? Is he still with us?
Of course.
I need to get him on the podcast sometime soon. Why do I got you on the podcast? Your dad sounds like a badass.
He's still with us. He almost wasn't with us because a couple of weeks ago, this stubborn dude at the barrel storm, right, brought his fence down. I don't want to time us, but we can. And he was back there with his neighbor, who's another retired stubborn engineer dude. Was like trying to fix his fence. He's like, "Oh, bring your son, my oldest son, Jackson." He's like, I show him how to do this. We do it. I'm like, dude, I don't have the time. I've got 3 businesses. I got a nonprofit. We got 5 children. We got crazy stuff, So I said, man, I'll pay for the dang job to get done, And he's like, no, I do this. So him and his neighbor went to it, and they started. And the story he tells me is, they're out there later night. They'd already dug holes, put some cement in to fix a part of the fence. And he stepped back to give way for his neighbor to pass as they're fixing, stepped right into a giant pothole, broke both of his ankles.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
At 73 years old, takes longer to heal. So rushed to a hospital, emergency room, surgery a couple of weeks ago. And now he's in assisted living care facility. So he's taken care of. His wife, also from Ukraine, like mine, she was out there visiting her father in Kiev, kind of a risk because there's things happening, right? Yeah. And so she got the news. She kind of shortened her trip. Her father is in his late 90s. Oh, wow. So, I was kind of like, well, what? Stay there. What are you going to, you can't lift this dude when you come over here, right? Like, you're okay. So we're all helping to take care. But of course, initially I wanted him to be here, and talk his stuff.
I hope he's getting healed up. I mean, double broken ankles. I mean, that's just terrible. Yeah, so
that's right.
But he sounds like a hell of a dude. That's what I was asking. So
he's one of the leading guys in his field on the planet. And awesome. Rocket scientist, which is, people joke about that, like, oh yeah, rocket scientist. Well, he actually is one. So
I love that, man. And so really cool that they moved down to Houston to support you in tennis. When did you start playing tennis?
I started age 5, and
So to give everyone an idea here, you're a professional tennis player. That's why I'm diving into this.
Yes, I played some pro, out of Westside Tennis Club, which is here in Houston, and then kind of had some setbacks, some injuries, real life came at me, kind of some challenges there in my early 20s, so I kind of stepped back from that and really kind of fell into coaching. I never thought of myself as a coach. I'm always like, I'm a player, I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
But I had some really rewarding initial experiences, from teaching. And really, I realized I love helping other people more than I like helping myself, so
it's a crazy dynamic, right? Like I love teaching people jiu-jitsu, like, new people coming in the gym, they don't know anything. And you see them 4 or 5 years down the road and they've got like little parts of your game.
They're whipping your butt.
You teach them things and then they come whoop my ass.
That's my favorite, dude. There's been not a lot of cases, but maybe 10 or under, experiences where my students are now beating me.
Yeah.
And even though I'm a competitor till the death, of me, the most competitive person you can find, maybe you'll say, no, I'm more competitive, but like that brings a little tear and a smile to my face when one of my students is now beating me.
There's this young kid that I've mentored and trained for a couple of years now. And since he was 19, he's like 21 now. And he made a comment the other day at the gym. He's like, it was something verbatim where like his life's mission is to tap me out and submit me. And he will soon.
How old?
He's 21 now. And, but it's like, I'm like that. And I don't feel old, I'm 34, but it's like, I'm starting to become like the old grizzly man in the gym. And it's like
getting a little grays in the beard.
Yeah, I'll get some grays in the beard and I'll always just be like one step ahead of him to where he can never get me. But no, there's plenty of people that I've taught and that they come whoop my ass now. And like, but that's rewarding. Like that's like, it's awesome to teach and give. And, but like when you're an athlete like that, to your caliber, it's kind of a weird shift where you go, it's like, I'm the player, I'm the athlete, but then something starts to transition where it's like, oh, there's joy and fulfillment out of teaching and coaching people. Yeah.
Yes.
And so you coach now too.
Yeah, I coach. I'm still doing that. I'm scaling back from that. I'd say worked at a lot of the big country clubs, tennis centers in our city. And I was very comfortable with, as I now call it, the W-2 prison, where it's like, hey, I know if I work 50, 60 hours a week, I'll make this amount of money per year. I have my 401k, I have my kids have insurance, blah, blah, blah. All right. And then kind of, we were living in Sugarland, our bubble. We love it. I grew up there, went to middle school, high school there, raising our family there. But we have 10 beating hearts in our home. We have myself, my wife, 5 children, 2 dogs, and a grandma. So the little 1-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 1-story home was getting a little crampy, So we start looking for a home and initially in Sugarland. And this was a couple years back. And then, we had offers put down where we thought we're getting this house bought out from under our feet. As I'm sure know, this like, hey, the giant corporations sending out the cash buys to cut everyone under.
Market a few years ago in Houston was insane, dude. All the Chinese money coming in, buying houses, all the private equity coming in. Like
some of these people are my students, by the way. So I have students that, I always joke, like we don't have 2 parts of government, Republicans and Democrats. We have 3 or 4. Which are, the giant companies that run the world. And so corporations, and they bought, I'm like, hey, we got $450 down on this house. We're good. It's right here. We're still right here. And like, oh, someone came and gave us $425 cash. So we took it.
Yeah.
So we settled in a house out towards Katy. And, honestly, all my students kind of came to me, was like, Coach, we don't come here to this place, I won't name it, but it's a big corporate, place out there in the Galleria. For this place, we come here for you. So if you go anywhere, we'll go with you. And so I kind of made a big life decision again, crossroads, and said, I believe in myself and I'll bet on myself before anyone else. And so I left that place and started my own business, my own tennis academy, cool. And started doing some marketing consulting for other sports facilities. And then I started to find like, man, half of my students are
where do you do that at?
So we teach at different parks, different schools in cool. Houston, you know, public park schools. Yeah. I have assistant coaches now as well. Nice. Houston, Katy, Sugar Land mainly, but we do Cypress, we do surrounding areas. And honestly, best decision I ever made, you know, but also looking back, like, man, half of my students are doctors, physicians, hospitalists, you know, that own their own clinics, pharmacies. So I'm like, man, I'm already putting them together. I'm already like, hey, guy, meet this guy, go do this thing, make some money. Like, I'm already, and I'm not in this corporate setting. I don't have to be like, oh, I'm non-compete, I'm tied to this. Hey, I'm free now. I got my own thing. So I'm like, I need to start a business in healthcare. You know, we start a company there. And then 6 months after that, my dad come and sit my sister and I down. I was like, oh, by the way, I've got about 5 or 6 things I've done in my life, you know, inventions, you know, that have been experimented, that have been patented, that could be $100 million businesses if you do them correctly. And then he told me the whole PDC bit story. He had some troubles in the past. Actually, this is not a brand new acute idea on the cloud that we're trying to develop. There was a company in the past that my dad was the head of, that had a bad and sad ending due to financial, basically people screwing him over, but it's his baby. He's the inventor. It's his patent, right? So he told me the full story. I said, first, 2 things, right? One is, well, that sucks. My dad got screwed over, so I want to make that right. But second, this could truly be something that's a game breaker, an industry changer. So I said, let's do it. So we started Cool Edge Bits, you know, C Corp. Got a group of, you know, board of directors, some shareholders, some initial founders, advisory board, and kicked things off last October. Okay. But I told my dad, I said, I don't want any bad juju from the past. Get me a new patent, right? So we paired him with a gentleman, won't say his name, but very, very experienced, used to work at Hughes Christensen, Baker Hughes, 40 years plus, drill bit design. A lot of people I talked to said this is the best drill bit designer on the planet. Yeah. So I paired these 2 brainiacs up, my dad and him, and they increased the design a little bit. And we went from 12 ports to actually 21 now, which some of these people that are building our bits and running our bits are saying, you're insane. But we're like, no, we're not. And
sorry if I show the bottom of this bit to the camera. So how many ports do we have?
21. 21. So we don't have 6 big giant nozzles, right?
Yeah. So you can see, you know, I mean, looks like a normal PDC bit on the outside, right? But when we look at the jet design and the nozzle design, instead of having a couple of jets here in between the cutters, we have 20 plus ports here on the bottom.
Yes, and they're strategically placed and directed to the cutting edge, right? To the most stressed cutters, the guys that see the most action and get the most damage. Yeah. And what that does
I was going to say, like, one thing I didn't point out is that there are some here on the sides of the cutters
on the blades.
As well.
Yes, on the blades. We put 6 on the 6 blades there. We put a couple of openings, ports, not whatever fancy word you want to use, right? But we made sure we put it on the back of the blade so the blade stays strong. And we directed those right towards the cutting edge. And so what that's been able to help us do is bring the temperature down, you know, considerably by between 30 to 35% at the cutting edge. So again, you can tell me better than I can what that does, right? Yeah. More bit runs.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like when I started drilling wells in 2010, I mean, we still used roller cone bits for the majority of the well, and then really started adopting PDCs. And so I've seen kind of the evolution of bits firsthand. Let's talk about the business, like commercializing this thing. So you started a year ago almost. Yeah, almost. In October. You guys are almost a year in. You've got your bit design. What are you trying to do with this? Are you trying to go put bits down hole and sell them to companies? Are you trying to sell the design? Tell me how you think about building the business and where you guys are at right now.
Right. So our main 3 goals are, you know, investors. We had a couple initial investors. We're in the seed round, just leaving that round, you know, and going into a Series A round of investment. We've raised some money. We have some cash flow, you know, money in our pockets. We're spending some on marketing, on building a sales force and team. Obviously, manufacturing is a big cost. Our goal is to have our own warehouse. Yeah. So we're, you know, having our guys build our bits at this point. Eventually, and I guess essentially competitors of ours are building our bits, Matrix and Steel Body. Yeah. But that's a big goal. But, you know, investors, customers, getting the bits down hole. We've talked to some really large operators, and some of them are our friends and, connections back to the tennis world. And they're like, hey, dude, you got something great. It's awesome. It's innovative. It's a new technology. It's patented. It's protected. It's a good design. And we're all about it. We love it, but we're not about breaking new technology. We're about, a guy we talked about said, hey, Wall Street won't let me do it, literally, but he said, hey, get with some of these tier 3, tier 2 operators, run your bits, get me 40, 50, 60 run reports, right? Evidence, get me some testimony from the drilling directors, the pushers, right? And then we'll be your biggest customers. So we're at that stage now, and partnering with people maybe like yourself.
So trying to find first pilot customer where you can actually get bits down hole and run them. Yeah. I mean, look, that's the hardest thing. Like, I respect anyone that makes downhole tools in this industry, because this industry is a follow-on industry. And so everyone likes technology, but they never want to be the first one to put it in their well. Yeah. And so it's always that first one. But once you get that first one, and if it's successful, boom, I mean, it's off to the races.
It's a funny position we're in, because it's like the CFOs or the CEOs, the guys that cut the checks, they're like, oh, this is cool. Wow, it makes sense. Like, well, I'm not a technical guy, but yeah, we love it. Let's do it. Talk to my drilling engineers. We talk to drilling engineers. They're like, yeah, but they have mostly good salaries, good jobs, big homes, wives, children, take care of, right? And so we're in a tough little wedge here where it's like, we got these guys that like it. We got these guys that approve it, but sometimes they won't take the risk because, we feel very confident in what this is going to do. And we're actually having not just tests, but runs out in the field where we're proving this is outperforming the other technology, but some of these guys are comfortable in what they have. They're comfortable in using the biggest, like I said, there's 5 companies that pretty much control the market, and they won't take a risk on the 1 or 2% chance that this doesn't work. Yeah. Now that's their butt. Right.
Yeah.
So,
but this, like, these are challenges that all downhole tool companies face, and you can get it done. You just have to find that one champion that believes in it, right? And so that's what it is a numbers game and talking to people. And so our call to action on the show today is, if you're a drilling engineer listening, we're looking for pilots to get this bit downhole. So
yes, go visit cooledgebits.com. Check my LinkedIn page. Get active in just inquiries. We want to just talk to you and share with you what we have.
Get feedback loops. Yeah, no, this is cool, man. I love drilling technology. I'm a drilling boy, broke out on rigs drilling. And so it's not often I get to have downhole technology here on the show. And so definitely hope that this helps you guys get some traction and some pilots. The only thing I ask from you is, if you do, you give me a testimony that you got some business off of here. Of course, man. And so I love, kind of like wrapping this up, man. I think that you're an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. And, I don't say that often about people, but what I loved about, like, one part of your story was, hey, I went and found, everyone told me this was the smartest bit design guy. Got him and my dad, these 2 brainiacs together. Like, that's what entrepreneurship is about, is finding the smartest people that you can and bringing them together to solve problems. Did you have any experience in oil and gas before this endeavor, or you're jumping straight?
I got experience in people. I grew up in different parts of the world, big cities. I've been through many things. I've seen not everything, but a lot of things, and have dealt with all kind of people. My experience is building relationships. I think when you build a business, it's like, and business relationships are like marriage. If you marry someone that's maybe a little sour, you're going to have a sour life, right? Yeah. So same in business. So we try to, connect with people that have similar, morals, missions, kind of values and goals, and go from there. So that's just been my experience in putting this whole thing together. And in the end, it's like, this is the American dream, right? We're immigrants from another country. Although I'll say I'm a Texan before anything, right? I was born on the other side of the world. I've been here 30 plus years. So
that's what you told me earlier, like Midland over Moscow.
Midland over Moscow, baby, even though that's my birthplace. But we're definitely into, we have some traction with Middle East, with Mexico and other parts of the world. But hey, man, this is our back pocket, this great state of Texas. And we want to get our bits down hole and get some of these earlier runs like we're already having here in our state, and in West Texas as well. And this design was kind of a little beefed up, from the previous design for areas like West Texas or Haynesville.
Yeah, no, I'm super curious to see how it does once it gets down hole, because I think that it makes sense on paper and in my head. And so really curious to see how it goes. And yeah, we're also going to have to, me and you are going to have to go record a podcast out sometime. I've never played a day of tennis in my life. I'd like to learn how to play though.
Yes.
So need some fundamental lessons and training, and we'll go record
Let's
a podcast.
That's crazy you say that, because a lot of my students are like, man, you're a pretty good, maybe one of the best people I've been across that like can get a story out of me. You know what I mean? Even like famous people that everyone knows that I teach, there's like, oh, I've never shared any of this with anyone. But
that's funny. We won't say names on the show, but you're just telling me who some of your clients are and their kids. I mean, you've got kind of who's who of Houston,
of the city,
that you're training. And so, no, you got great soft skills, which I think like 90% of entrepreneurship is about soft skills. Right. And so, that's what I said, is that you're an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. You find people and connect them and make it happen. And so, yeah, what we'll do is a couple things. One, we'll drop y'all's website in our show notes so people can find it that way. If you're listening and you're interested in this, you can also go to Collide, so collide.io, and search Cool Edge Bits. Boom. Bring up the video. You'll be able to see this bit on video, and so get a little bit better of a visual representation for it. So make sure to check that out. And yeah, dude, I'm excited about this, man. It's cool stuff. And
this is why we're here, man. We're really here to help, drilling operations right around the world, and to help those people save money, save time, and we feel our product is better. I don't like to say cheaper, more affordable, and faster, right? So we're going to beat the price. We're going to do a better job, turnarounds faster, and get more things done, and especially offshore. We haven't even delved into, we've had some runs onshore and we have those statistics, but offshore is truly what my father says this bit was designed for. So we're excited.
Well, we'll try to help people make more whole. That's what it's about. So
that's what it is.
If you're listening, make sure to check it out. Share it with a friend. If you got a friend that's a drilling engineer at EMP that'd be interested in this, share it with them. Appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, guys, we will catch you on next week's episode.